The sun was scorching my skin, the sangria was perfectly chilled, and I was blissfully ignoring the faint sound of crashing waves on the Spanish coast when my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. I picked it up, expecting a vacation selfie from a friend. Instead, it was a rapid-fire succession of texts, all in all caps from a number I barely recognized. "Aubrey, where are you? You're late for your shift. This is unacceptable. Do you even care about your job?" My blood ran cold. My job was a distant memory, a chaotic blur of plastic booths and passive-aggressive complaints from managers who clearly thought a hostess was an all-powerful deity responsible for every hiccup in a restaurant. This manager, however, was new. As in, I hadn't even worked there in weeks. And he was clearly unhinged. This, folks, was the final, glorious, infuriating straw in a saga that started long before I packed my bags for Spain. See, I used to work at this giant chain restaurant, the kind that smelled faintly of stale fryer oil and ambition. But this wasn't just any location, it was the regional management training hub. That meant we were constantly swimming in a sea of fresh-faced deer-in-headlights management trainees. Bless their hearts, they had zero prior experience. We're talking people who'd probably never even eaten in a restaurant, let alone run one. They were floundering, badly. And who bore the brunt of all that beautiful, glorious incompetence? Me, the hostess. If the kitchen was slammed, I got reamed for slow service. If a server got triple sat, I was blamed for poor table distribution. It was a constant barrage of misplaced anger, a daily dose of being the convenient scapegoat, and frankly, I was over it. My patience, like the restaurant's supply of clean forks on a Saturday night, was running dangerously low. So after much internal debate, I walked up to the general manager one slow Tuesday afternoon and handed him my 2 weeks' notice. I was polite, professional, and genuinely wished them well. I wanted to leave on good terms, to float away from the madness with a friendly wave. Yeah, that didn't happen. 2 weeks passed. I worked my last shift, said my goodbyes, and looked forward to freedom. Then, a few days later, I got a notification. "Aubrey, your shift starts at 5 p.m. I blinked. Seriously? I called the restaurant. "Hey, it's Aubrey. Just got a shift notification, but I put in my 2 weeks. I'm not scheduled." The manager on duty, bless his confused heart, mumbled, "Oh right, sorry about that, Aubrey. I'll make a note." "A note," he said. "A note." Another 2 weeks sailed by, another shift notification, another call from me. "Hey, it's Aubrey again. Still getting these. Just wanted to make sure someone actually removed me from the system this time." More apologies, more confusion. "We'll get on it," I was assured. "Definitely this time." At this point, I was a little annoyed, but mostly just resigned. It was typical for this place, so I shrugged it off, packed my bags, and headed off to Spain, ready to forget all about lukewarm coffee and screaming customers. That's when he came in, the new manager, the one I'd never even met. The texts kept coming, each one more frantic and accusatory than the last. "You're lying. We saw you on the schedule. You're sabotaging the team. You're lazy." My mind raced. I was literally thousands of miles away. How could he possibly think I was lying? I explained calmly at first, then with growing exasperation that I no longer worked for the company, that I had put in my notice weeks ago, and that if I was still on the schedule, it was their mistake, not mine. It was like talking to a brick wall constructed entirely of misplaced rage. He didn't care. He didn't believe me. He just kept digging in, doubling down on his accusations, calling me names, threatening disciplinary action. My sangria suddenly tasted like bile. My vacation effectively was over? I fumed. Then I took screenshots. Every single unhinged, unprofessional, venomous message, I sent them to a different manager, one of the few competent ones still clinging to sanity at the restaurant, with a simple message, "I think you need to handle this." And handle it, they did. Turns out this new manager hadn't bothered to check any records. He just saw my name on a poorly updated schedule and went full throttle Karen. He was suspended, then demoted. Turns out you can't just harass people you don't even manage, especially when they don't even work for you anymore. Who knew? The best part? That wasn't the end of it. Even after being disciplined, the new manager somehow found my personal number again and started sending a new string of messages. These were less about work, more about how I had ruined his career, how unfair it was, how I was a terrible person. The sheer audacity. I blocked him, finally. I just couldn't anymore. I flew back to the States a few days later, still reeling from the surreal experience. It dawned on me then. He wasn't just incompetent, he was genuinely deluded, so caught up in his own perceived authority that he couldn't grasp reality. He really thought I was some renegade ex-employee actively trying to ruin his life from a Spanish beach. So there it is, y'all. The tale of how I, Aubrey, became the unwilling star of a very personal, very international I Don't Work Here Lady saga. The silver lining? I never had to set foot in that restaurant again. And for that, I am eternally grateful. As for that new manager, well, I hope he eventually figured out how to use a schedule, or, just got fired. Either way, it's not my problem anymore. And that, my friends, is the sweetest feeling of all.
This next story might destroy your faith in humanity, but first subscribe so we can keep making these videos.
I'm still replaying it in my head, the foreman's hand shooting out, trying to snatch my phone right out of my grip. My first day on this new site, and I'm already in a full-blown confrontation, wondering if I'm about to get decked. All because nobody listened when I kept telling them I was an electrician. I rolled onto the new construction site that morning, buzzing with the usual first-day energy, hard hat on, safety vest with my company's logo blazing proud across the back and front, my company name, Electrical Services. My tool belt was loaded. I was ready to go. I'm a journeyman electrician, not just some random warm body, and I was eager to get started on the main panel layout. The site superintendent, a gruff guy named Frank, barreled through the safety spiel, then started barking out assignments. "All right, general laborers over here," he yelled, and then he looked right at me. "You too, new guy. Go grab a shovel from the shed and start breaking up that old concrete slab by building D." My jaw must have hit the floor. Actually, I'm an electrician, sir," I said, trying to be polite, gesturing vaguely at my vest. "I'm here to start on the main electrical panel." He just waved a dismissive hand, not even bothering to really look. Yeah, we'll get to all that later. Right now you're a pair of hands. Go." I stood there for a beat, completely bewildered. An electrician, with a shovel? But fine. New site, new rules, I guess. I figured I'd just play ball for a bit, make a good impression, and then correct the misunderstanding when things calmed down. So I grabbed a shovel, started chipping away at some seriously stubborn concrete. Then it was hauling rebar for another crew. Then lugging sheets of drywall up 3 flights of stairs. Each time I tried to interject, "Seriously, I'm here for the electrical work. Do you have the prints for the main service?" And each time I got shut down. "Just do what you're told, son," was Frank's constant, grating refrain. By mid-morning, my patience was wearing thin, my back was aching from manual labor I hadn't signed up for, and my pride was seriously bruised. Frank, meanwhile, was everywhere, a human hurricane of orders, never stopping, never listening. I saw an opening when he walked past the temporary office trailer. The electrical drawings were taped to a column inside, right next to the marked-up floor plans. This was my chance to actually do my job. I ducked inside, trying to get my bearings on the layout. That's when Frank reappeared, blocking the doorway, his face practically purple. "What the hell are you doing, standing around and looking at blueprints? You're supposed to be helping Jerry with the framing," he bellowed, practically spitting. "I'm trying to figure out the panel layout, actually," I shot back, a little more sharpness in my tone than I intended. "I'm an electrician, remember? I need to know where the main service is going to be set up." He scoffed, rolling his eyes. "You're a laborer until I say otherwise. Now go help Jerry unload that truck." I just stared at him. This was beyond ridiculous. I'd tried to be nice. I'd tried to be helpful, and all I'd gotten was yelled at and forced into work that wasn't mine. My frustration boiled over. I pulled out my phone not to record him, but to shoot a quick text to my own foreman, having serious issues on site, getting forced to do manual labor, they won't listen, need you to call super. Before I could even hit send, Frank was in my face again. "Is that a phone? Get that out of my sight. You're on my clock and there's no personal calls on my site." And that's when he lunged. His hand shot out, trying to snatch it right out of my hand. I instinctively pulled back, clutching my phone to my chest. "Hey, what the hell is your problem?" I yelled, genuinely shocked by the aggression. It was then, as he reeled back, that his eyes finally landed on the embroidered logo on my safety vest, my company name, Electrical Services. Not just a casual scribble, but clearly visible in bold lettering. His face went from enraged to a mask of dawning, gut-wrenching horror. The color drained from him faster than a leaking bucket. Oh my God, he stammered, his voice suddenly small, barely a whisper. You're an electrician? I just stood there, chest heaving, trying to catch my breath, my own anger still simmering. I've been telling you that all morning, Frank. Frank stumbled back, mumbling incoherent apologies, his face a spectacular shade of crimson. He basically fled the scene, disappearing into the maze of scaffolding. I was still shaking, trying to process it all. That's when I saw another guy, also in an electrician's vest, step out of the office trailer, wiping tears of laughter from his eyes. He'd clearly heard the whole thing. Dude, you really got him going, he chuckled, leaning against the doorframe. I heard the whole thing. He actually thought you were a new laborer all morning. I just stared at him, my anger still too raw for humor. Yeah, hilarious, I said dryly. Except now I've wasted half a day doing manual labor, nearly got my phone snatched, and almost had a physical altercation. All because he wouldn't bother to read a vest or listen to a direct statement. The other electrician just shrugged, still smirking. Well, at least he knows now, right? I was still fuming when Frank reappeared a few minutes later, looking pale, flustered, and radiating an almost palpable shame. He avoided my gaze. Look, new guy, he said, fiddling with his hard hat. This just isn't working out. I think you should just pack up your tools and head home. We'll get someone else to do the electrical. I blinked. Are you serious? You're firing me? After you messed up this badly? After I tried to tell you countless times? He wouldn't meet my eyes. Just go. We'll handle it from here. I'll call your office. It was clear he was trying to sweep his monumental screw-up under the rug, making me the scapegoat to save face. I stared at him, then at the chaotic sight, then back down at my pristine electrical company branded vest. The sheer absurdity of it all was overwhelming. My first day, a supposed misunderstanding, and now I was out of a job because some power-tripping foreman couldn't bother to read a vest or listen to a direct statement. I didn't enjoy it, but I sure as hell learned something. Sometimes you can scream the truth at the top of your lungs, wear it on your chest, and people will still only see what they want to see. And sometimes that costs you your job.
My blood ran cold the moment I felt the sudden, jarring lurch. 1 second I was humming to myself, contemplating the existential dread of picking between chicken noodle and cream of mushroom. The next, my world spun. Literally. Someone had grabbed the handles of my wheelchair and yanked me around, facing the other direction. "What the absolute hell do you think you're doing?" I barked, my heart practically climbing out of my throat. My hands instinctively tightened on my wheels, but it was too late. I was already facing a woman whose face was a mask of indignant fury. "You're being so inconsiderate," she shrieked, her voice echoing a little too loudly in the quiet soup aisle. "I've been trying to get your attention for ages. Can't you see I need to get by?" I blinked. Ages? I'd been there maybe 5 minutes. And no, I hadn't noticed her. It hit me then, the bright yellow-green safety vest I was wearing, a necessary evil in my neighborhood where drivers seem to think pedestrian is a suggestion, not a state of being. Of course, she thought I worked here. "Look, lady, I don't work here," I said, trying to keep my voice even, despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "I'm just a customer, same as you, trying to get my groceries." Her jaw tightened, eyes narrowing to slits. "Oh, please, you're wearing that ridiculous vest. Don't play dumb with me. You disabled people think you can just wander around, getting in everyone's way, taking advantage of your condition to avoid working." The words hit me like a physical blow. Disabled people taking advantage? Was she serious? "What in God's name are you even talking about?" I shot back, my patience evaporating like spilled water on a hot stove. "I'm not an employee. I'm just a guy in a wheelchair doing his shopping." But logic was clearly not a language this woman, this Karen, understood. Before I could even react, she grabbed the handles of my chair again. This time, she wasn't just spinning me, she was pushing. Hard. "Fine," she spat, her knuckles white. "If you're so incompetent, I'll just take you to customer service myself. They'll sort you out." Panic flared. My stomach churned. Here I was, a grown man, being forcibly propelled across a supermarket by some deranged stranger. I honestly thought I was about to get reported, maybe even kicked out. All because she decided I was an obstacle, and my disability made me fair game for her entitlement. Just as we rounded the corner into the main aisle, a calm, firm voice cut through the chaos. "Excuse me, ma'am? Is there a problem here?" It was Amanda, the shift manager, a no-nonsense woman with kind eyes, but a gaze that could wither weeds. Karen, however, seemed impervious. "Yes, there's a huge problem, Amanda. This person is refusing to do their job. They're incompetent and have absolutely no regard for customer service." Amanda stepped between Karen and me, physically blocking her path. "Ma'am, Kai is a customer. He doesn't work here. You need to let go of his chair immediately." Karen bristled. "He's clearly lying. He's wearing a uniform. You're just enabling his laziness." Amanda didn't even flinch. Her voice dropped, becoming colder, more authoritative. "Ma'am, forcibly moving a customer's wheelchair, especially without their consent, is considered assault. I'm calling the store manager, Clark, and he's going to have a very serious chat with you." Before Karen could launch another tirade, Clark, a man built like a redwood, was there. He took one look at the situation, at my wide, terrified eyes, and at Karen's furious face, and his expression hardened. "Karen," he rumbled, his voice low and dangerous, "let go of Mr. Lee's chair, now." She finally reluctantly released me. Clark didn't raise his voice, but his presence was enough. He escorted her towards the back, his words cutting through the air. "You have just grabbed a disabled person's wheelchair and moved them against their will. That's a serious offense. We need to talk." As they disappeared, Karen turned back, a pathetic attempt at salvaging some dignity. She pulled a card from her purse. "Here," she huffed, pushing it towards me. "A complimentary grocery delivery service. Consider it. An apology for the inconvenience." I just stared at her, then at the card. "No thanks," I said, my voice flat. "I'm good. I prefer to shop for myself." The look on her face when I rejected her meager peace offering, priceless. I finished my shopping in a daze, the encounter replaying in my head. I thought that was the end of it, just another crazy Karen story to tell. But oh no. The very next morning, my phone rang. It was Clark. He asked me to come in for a meeting, stressing its importance. I showed up, a knot of anxiety in my stomach, half expecting to hear some lame apology or an offer for a gift card. Instead, sitting there with Clark was my lawyer and a sheriff's deputy. My stomach dropped further. "What in the world is going on?" I asked, looking between the three stern faces. Clark looked directly at me. "Mr. Lee, what happened yesterday wasn't just an inconvenience. What Karen did was a physical assault. The sheriff's department is moving forward with an arrest for battery, and your lawyer is working on a prosecution, both criminal and civil." My jaw must have hit the floor. Arrest? Battery? All that rage, all that fear I'd felt, suddenly had a name and consequences. Karen wasn't just a piece of work, she was a criminal. I can't disclose the civil part of the case just yet. Lawyers, you know how it is. But let's just say, she's going to be learning a very expensive lesson about respecting people, especially those with disabilities. So yeah, that's the story, folks. A simple trip for soup turned into a legal battle. It reminds me that sometimes, even when you're just trying to live your life, you gotta fight for your right to be treated with basic human decency. And sometimes, when someone crosses the line, you don't just roll on, you let the justice system roll right over them.
This next one might just be your new favorite.